Today we're going to change the front sprocket on a Meteor 350 from the standard 15 tooth front sprocket to the 16 tooth front sprocket as advised by Hitchcock's. I've done my calculations. I think it's going to give us about 5 mile an hour more top end, but time will tell. You need a few tools: 5mm Allen key, 6mm Allen key, 24mm ring spanner, a Tommy bar, 30mm socket for the front sprocket, a hammer, a couple of chisels to knock the lock tag over, and a torque wrench to reset it. So the torque wrench needs to go up to about 120 pounds, which is, I forget, 160 newton meters, something like that. Right, let's get started. First off, we're going to take the cover off on the front sprocket. There's 3 Allen bolts. As you can see, I've already loosened them. They're all the same length, so there is no need to worry about in which order they go. So, there you go. That's that. Now there is a locking tag in here, which I have already knocked over, as you can see. You need to get a little chisel, it's just knocked over, but we will do that when we put it back together. So that is a 30mm socket you require on there. So I suggest, we've loosened it off already, but what I suggest is you get a friend to sit on it off the main stand. You need to put the front brake on, the rear brake on. It is really tight, and then somebody just goes back. Do not put it in gear, because you're going against the gearbox, and you don't really want to do that. Got a little bit tight there. I mean, if you've got could you hold the wheel, Alan, please? Just get my assistant to hold the back wheel. So that's loose, relatively loose. And what I'm going to do now, just because it's a nylon nut as well, get it most of the way so it comes off really easy. We're going to loosen the rear end off now. I have marked the chain. All chains have got a tight spot. Find out your tight spot. I cleaned it off with a little brake cleaner. I put etching primer on. I am going to put some top coat on, probably red. Then I'll always adjust the chain there, and it makes it so easy. So we haven't got to worry about anything else now, because all I do when I come to adjust the chain is I will go. So you loosen this side off the axle, 24mm socket, loosen it off 3 or 4 turns, it's nice and loose, and then the 6mm Allen key is required. To loosen the adjusters with this 6mm Allen key is just loosen the adjusters off a fair way, both sides. What we're trying to do is get a lot of slack out on the chain, so we're going to get the bigger sprocket in, you see. So loosen them off a fair way, and then we'll just tap the wheel forward so they're in nice and tight. Let's just have a look at the chain, just see if we've got plenty of slack. And look at that, there's loads of slack. So what I'm going to do now, to save the chain moving about, I'm going to tighten the axle up again, just so I'm not fighting against anything. You don't need to do it really tight, it's just a matter of just pinching it to stop it from sliding about. You're advised to wear gloves on this little job, because you're going to be handling the chain, and that chain lube is awful stuff. Right, it's a bit tight in here, I must say. Enfield could have done a little bit better there, but right, that's pinched up. Now it's just a matter of taking this nut right off now. And then we are going to try and slide that off like that. And there's the sprocket. Just leave it like that. And then, where did I put the sprocket? The sprocket's over on the other bench. My colleague is going to pass it to me. Thank you, Alan. And there's the difference. There's not a lot in it, but hopefully it's going to give us a little bit more top end. Let's see. Let's get it back together. Just put the sprocket. Oh, can't do it. So put it onto the chain. Slide it on. Just put it in gear just so to stop that from sliding about. It just doesn't want to go at the moment, does it? So slid on, not the easiest, but there you go. So, and don't forget the locking nut washer. And what did we do with the nut? Behind me. Don't forget, this has got to be torqued up, so you will need a torque wrench. But what I'm going to do now I've got that on, I'm going to do up a little bit. You can buy the tab if you damage the tab. It might be advisable to buy the tab when you're buying the sprocket, but I didn't bother because I'm a little bit tight like that. Right, let's go into. Oh, I put it into gear for some reason. Right, let's get this chain adjusted. So I've just got the chain into position where it needs to be adjusted at with my paint marks on. So as you can see, now I'm just going to get up, loosen the axle and get the chain adjusted up into the right place. Sorry about the old mound sounds. Me grabbing the rear axle nut off, so I didn't want it too tight, and then I'm just going to start adjusting the chain. And it has to be on here, it says 25 to 30 mil free play, I believe. I've measured it, what it was on the floor. I don't know if you're meant to do it not on the stand, but no point in having a stand if you're not going to. Adjusted that up to what that feels like. I just got to check it on the thing. You've got a little mark here. Make sure that that's about right. So that says 31 at the bottom, and that is 33, 35 at the top, at the bottom when I push it up. So that's about right. But I've just got to make sure it's all lined up now. We've got marks on the swinging arm here that correspond with your axle, so that we're looking at 1, 2, 3, just under 4 lines. I'll just check the other side. Yeah, so this side is a little bit too much, so I'm going to loosen that off and push the wheel backwards a little bit, just give it a little bit of a clout. And then restart. 1, 2, 3. And a half. I'm going to change the other side. See, I've adjusted the chain. I've got my tension right over here. Use a tape measure to make sure that there's 25 mil free play. And over here, you've got a little mark on the swinging arm, up and down, and you just count the lines and make sure you've got equal amount of lines the other side, and that it's in the same place. That's about 3.5 lines, I believe, and that the other one is 3.5, about 3.5. And now I'm just about to tighten the rear axle up. Just make sure that that's tight. I have tightened it up, and just it's got to be about 70 pound, I think it is. I'll check. I'll give you the torque settings in a minute, but that's tight. You need to do it really tight. You won't get the socket set in there to do it with the rear axle's got to be 57 pound, I think it is, if you're going to torque it up, and that's 77 Newton meters. But you can't get a socket in there. I've done it really tight by hand, which I've done with all my bikes. Okay, we're going to torque the nut up now to 160 Newton meters. Alan's going to hold the front brake on and the rear brake, because we're not going to go against the gearbox. He's just going to stand there with it on. And there it goes. And that's all you do. Now I've got to knock the tag over, loosening, taking the torque wrench off to 0. I'm going to put it back on the main stand now. So just going to knock the tag back over now. Just bend it over a little bit. So happens that that's in the same spot, but you need to be banging it on a flat, obviously. Just put that metal chisel in there. I'll just replace the casing. The 3 Allen bolts, just hold it up there. I find it easier just to put 1 Allen bolt, the top one in, line it up with the hole, saves you keep moving about. These weren't particularly tight, but I'm going to pinch them up. I'd normally put a little bit of copperies on them, but I can't find it at the moment. It may be coming off if it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, just pull that casing over to one side and it slides in then. And there you have it, we've done it. So when the roads dry out a bit, because it's been particularly wet here in the tropical south of England, I will let you know how it goes. The DNA filter works really well, and that combined, I'm hoping she's going to pull 77. Of course, not on the King's highways, obviously on private land. But I'll let you know how it goes. Thanks a lot.